Welcome to another Monday fun-filled edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keita McGee on the Twitter and at Keita_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps, whether it's the Apple iTunes Store or Google Play. Wherever you get your apps, make sure it says Sports Zone Chicago. You can watch our shows live, or if you miss them, you can catch them on the replay. Make sure you get that app that says Sports Zone Chicago. You can also follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you want to catch the audio version of this podcast, you can do so by subscribing to wherever you download your podcast. Make sure you type in that search engine box WARR on Anchor. That's War on Anchor. That's where you can get the audio version of this podcast. And you can follow War Media at WARR Media. That's at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at War Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you can listen to this show and watch this show every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sports Zone Chicago. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. Lakeena, this is week 3 of the NFL, and this is our tradition. Every Monday, we do our football power hour. Lakeena, let's break down the Bears' loss to the Cleveland Browns yesterday by the score of 26-6. Justin Fields, 6 of 20, 68 yards in passing yards. Do I blame him for yesterday's loss? No. David Montgomery, 10 carries, 34 yards. His longest run was on the first drive of 16 yards. Do I blame him for yesterday's loss? No. Allen Robinson, 2 catches, 27 yards. His longest was 18. Do I blame him for yesterday's loss? No. Cole Kmet, 1 catch, 11 yards. Your only catch from a tight end position. Do I blame him for yesterday's loss? No. Roquan Smith, 9 tackles in total, 5 solo. Do I blame him for yesterday's loss? No. Khalil Mack, 2 sacks. He left the game with a foot injury. Do I blame him for yesterday's loss? No. Well, Sid, where does the blame go? I'll tell you where the blame goes. Head coach Matt Nagy. What kind of offense was that yesterday? What were we running? It looked worse than a Chicago publicly high school offense, okay? It looked worse than my playground days when I was growing up on the south side of Chicago, okay, Lakeena?
Mm-hmm.
The blame pie can go all kinds of ways, but it usually starts at the top. And yes, we could talk about GM Brian Pace or Ted Phillips or George McCaskey. We've done that front and back, side to side throughout this offseason leading up to the regular season. We're not going to do that here. We're going to focus in on the game. Matt Nagy, the first drive was great, even though you ended up with 3 points. It was very conservative. But what happened in the rest of the 3 quarters? When you're trying to protect something, you overcompensate for something else. What tends to happen, Lakeena? Usually something bad, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's what happened yesterday. And where does this start? At the head coach's position. Now, we're not going to get into a discussion here or whether Matt Nagy should be gone or how long he's going to stay here. Like I said, we're going to keep the behind-the-scenes stuff out of this discussion. We're going to focus in on the game. I didn't see any creativity or any strength in plays that adjusted to Justin Fields' strengths. I know you're trying to keep the Cleveland Browns off board. Did that work yesterday? No. They were prepared for any and everything. So where does this leave us, Sid? Well, I'm glad you asked. You're at a crossroads. As we told you on Friday, whether it was injury or whenever you had your quote-unquote plan to put in Justin Fields as your starting quarterback, there's no turning back. There's no turning back now. You have a Lions team that's going to come in here on Sunday in a foul mood. We'll get into them while we said that later on this hour. But you're going to have a desperate Lions team. They're going to, even though what happened to them yesterday happened, they're going to come in here just a little bit more confident than what people are going to give them credit for. The Bears are at a crossroads, and everybody in the head coaching staff, including your head coach, and certain players had to look themselves in the mirror and say, what am I made of? What am I made of when things are down? And what can I do to improve the situation? Right now, this is where the Bears are in their season, standing with a record of 1-2.
Can I go now?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, look, I'm not gonna go into a long tangent about. I'm not worried about Justin Fields. Look, he didn't have his best outing. Look, he's a rookie, whatever. But he was sacked 9 times. Let me say that again. 9 times. 9 times. And Myles Garrett, who is a Pro Bowler, actually may have clinched himself a spot in the Pro Bowl already in week 3 with he had 4.5 of those sacks. And if you saw his interview with Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk on NBC, he basically said, look, they were surprised that the rest of the defense were surprised at how the schemes that Nagy was using. Now, look, we can go into a whole tangent. We're not going to do that. That's not our place. It's too early for that. I know hashtag Fire Nagy's been trending on Twitter this morning, and I get it. I know folks are frustrated, fans are frustrated, but again, you only rushed the ball 46 yards, and 12 of those yards are for your quarterback. Fields passed for 68 yards, but only ended up having one yard net gain because those 9 sacks deterred a lot of that. And look, Allen Robinson had some drops. Cole Kmet wasn't used very much, or none of the tight ends really. Jimmy Grant I think only had 0 catches, and you had a couple of fumbles, and then the defense did what they're supposed to early. But Roquan Smith, look, he's a gamer. He's always he had 9 technically 5 solo ones. Fine, Deion Bush had a good outing. Eddie Jackson, he tackled, but there were a couple of times where you're like, okay, where's especially that sort of like that ceiling, the touchdown, it was just awful. There's plenty of game blame to go around. I don't just blame the coach, but again, know your personnel. That whole line is awful. It is terrible. Jason Peters, who was just who was out fishing about this time last month before he got the call to join the Bears, he was terrible. Cody Whitehair. It was sort of like, hey, come on in. And Myles Garrett knew this. So that look, Pat O'Donnell was a player of the game for the Bears, and he's been like that the last couple of years. So that just shows you, he's a great puncher. So he shows you how good he is. But this team is not very good, and I'm gonna be very very real on that. And feel free to comment on our Facebook and YouTube pages from Sports Zone Chicago. We'll have them up. Keep them clean, though. I know some of you guys out there are frustrated, but keep them clean, and we'll read them to you, and you put them on the screens. But it's just this team's not good enough. This team's not contending. They have a get right game against Detroit, but then again, that's not a gimme either. So, but this team isn't very good. Let's be honest. The coaching is not very good. A lot of the personnel isn't very good. And I think, we won't go into the folks at the top or whatever. I know everyone says it starts at the top, and that's true. But again, A-Rob, you can't afford to be having drops to try to keep your team in it. And some of the schemes that we're running, it was just terrible. And look, Greg Olsen, who did a fantastic job on the call yesterday, he got a little bit, snaps here and there, but on the Bears, but he said it best. Like, what are you doing? Like, I think he was on the. We went through this last year with some of the analysts who were doing these Bears games. They were on the verge of swearing, and there were a couple of times if you listen to him in the broadcast with Kevin Burkhardt, he was on the verge of swearing a couple of times. Like, what are they doing? And we're going through this again. And these are classics, and it just and look, give the Browns credit. They had their little dinks, with Kareem Hunt, and he had like almost 100 yards rushing and also passing as well. They did like the little dinks, and that's what they that's what they did, and it worked. So they were able to kind of ghost. That shows how many holes that Bears offense has. So it's just, I don't want to go into this very long because there were better games that were on yesterday. I know we were a Chicago show as such, but I don't want to get into this long tangent. But go ahead, Sid.
You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, Reaction Monday, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you. As Lakeena mentioned, if you want to comment on the Bears game yesterday and their 26-6 loss to the Cleveland Browns on the road, you could do so on our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago or on our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago. Keep those comments clean, whether you agree with us or disagree with us. Keep them respectful. Lakeena will get those comments up and on the air for you. If you try to do anything stupid or trying to troll, Lakeena will politely give you the boot. Taking a look at the stats from the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield, as you mentioned, Lakeena, he had a quarterback rating of 97.0. He had a touchdown pass to Austin Hooper who we talked about on Friday could be a factor. He was. He scored the touchdown toward the end of the first half. Baker Mayfield passed for 246 yards in a touchdown pass. In the rushing department for the Browns, Nick Chubb had 22 carries for 84 yards. Kareem Hunt had 10 carries for 81 yards, including that touchdown to open up the fourth quarter. Odell Beckham Jr. had a nice game. He had a carry for 10 yards, along with 5 catches for 77 yards in his 2021 debut. Donovan Peoples-Jones had 2 terrific catches on the sidelines for 39 yards, including his one for 21 yards. As we mentioned, Austin Hooper, 2 catches, 19 yards. In a touchdown. Rashard Higgins, 2 catches for 21 yards. Lakeena, as you mentioned, the defense for the Browns showed up yesterday. I'm sure outside of Myles Garrett, everybody was starting to eat because I'm sure they looked across the way, looked at the Bears, and said, "You running not even a high school offense, a grade school offense, and this is so easy. Are you kidding me? Let's go at them." And they really didn't have to blitz that much because they knew what was coming. You saw what happened yesterday. It was a big separation between the men and the boys.
Yeah, and like I said, know your personnel. I mean, look, my high school football team, Bogan. Sorry, guys, they weren't that. They look those. My senior year, they weren't very good. I mean, they could have had a better showing than what was shown there. I mean, look, like I said before, the O line. Look, we wanted Justin Fields out there, and the scheme just didn't fit for him. And also, too, I mean, that O line, gosh, they're Swiss cheese. I mean, Garrett had some, of course, with the great day Garrett had, Malik Jackson had a half a sack too, and it was just, look, I think it's one of those things where
you get a sack.
Everybody got pressure to him. It was just like, let's hold right through. And it's just unfortunate. But look, again, this is a part of the growing pains and everything. And it's just, I just feel like there's really nothing left to say. There's really nothing else to say. This team is not good enough. I mean, look, I don't want to look if they hammer Detroit, which I don't think they will at this point, but I'm thinking that there might be some guys that might have one foot out the door, like Khalil Mack, who looked even when he came back, he did look banged up. Hicks, was banged up, and there were a lot of guys. Look, we had Robert Quinn. He had a couple of nice plays, but it wasn't enough to kind of deter that that defense. Look, remember that defense is older now. Just about everybody there is over 30. I know, Trevathan might be back in a few weeks, but I don't think that's going to make a big difference. So there's really nothing left to say.
Actually, there is, before we take our break, before we have a few minutes left. I was made aware of the comment, and I caught part of it in passing via my television yesterday. Matt Nagy was talking in his post-game presser. He said, "It all starts with me. What we did was wrong. It all starts with me, and yada, yada, yada." I said, "It sounds good, but do you really believe that? Do you think the players really believe what you just said?" I'm doing the Jordan Shrug for those of you listening exclusively on our audio podcast. Does Matt Nagy really believes what he says? Do you think anybody really believes in the words that he says? Because the even though he's been in the playoffs 2 out of his first 3 years as a head coach, do you really think that the message is getting through to the players? And do you think the veterans on that team has tuned them out?
Be you, as they say. Be as you would say, be you. Like I think that's sort of like a thing. And look, I think if things get on, as much as it has, look, I think the players might be tuning them, especially the veterans. They might be tuning them out. Look, I know if Tevin Jenkins comes back after from his back injury, I don't know if that's going to make a difference either. But again, you can say it's injuries, you can say it's this, but this team just isn't very good. And let's just be honest. I think we might be better off in thinking that.
And another thing that I noticed yesterday, especially with the offensive line, all of them had bad games. Jermaine Ifedi, Jason Peters, bless the man who is trying to collect that last paycheck before he retires at 39 years old. But he didn't look good yesterday. It's just it looked like they weren't prepared for what was coming. And with all the mental mistakes, with the false starts and the penalties, it was just a disaster, ugly disaster from the start. And when stuff like that starts happening, it affects with you mentally. And when that starts happening, everything goes downhill. And that's what we saw yesterday. You come in unprepared and you expect something to happen, being ultra conservative, things usually go the wrong way. And that's what we saw happen from the Bears yesterday.
Look, I've almost wished that they had opened up the playbook for Fields. And look, if he had thrown 3 or 4 interceptions, one was a pick six, I mean, that would have been fine. I'd rather if that had happened to him than have him been sacked 9 times. I mean, that poor guy was sore, and then he might have a hand injury. So, and then Matt Nagy has some word salad earlier this morning saying that maybe, I don't know. We hear from Schefter saying that Andy Dalton's knee injury might keep him out another couple of weeks. And they might week to week, and everything else is just the whole thing is just everything's kind of falling off the rails for the Bears. So I just don't. I really just think there's nothing else we can say about this team at this point. I don't think there is. So nope.
Do we have any comments so far? Because don't have the access to the comments. Do you have any comments yet?
No, not at the moment. But I'm sure everybody wants to kind of like keep it clean. So. I'm sure we'll see if but look, like I said, feel free to comment on our Facebook and YouTube page. And look, I think that some Bears fans are frustrated. I get it, but again, this team, they are who they are. They are who you thought they were, and now we're seeing it in real time, and we get a couple more primetime games. Yay! To show more of these. Yippee!
Yeah, even though there was a multitude of games going on the Fox Network yesterday. Most outside the New York market. The New York market was obviously from that. We'll get to the Giants on the other side of this break. But outside the New York market, most of the country got a chance to watch this game because it was a debut of Justin Fields and Kevin Burkhardt and Pam Oliver. And you mentioned Greg Olstater, number 2, crew for 5. So this was the first game of the doubleheader yesterday. So most of the nation got a chance to watch that garbage. We talked about it last year, on our podcast. This is what you have to offer. Is this the best you have to offer? If it is, then you really, as a franchise, you really have a long way to go.
Well, look, look at. Well, look, like I said before, I mean, this. Well, look, like I said before, I mean, look, we saw yesterday. I think Greg was on the verge of swearing, and look, we saw it last year multiple times. Just about every analyst that had to do a Bears game were on the verge of swearing.
Multiple times.
God! I know he wanted to say a curse word so bad. I know he wanted to say a curse word. That Packers game. My God, I know that game. That had to give him nightmares. I swear.
Instead of giving you your listeners and viewers nightmares, we're going to take a pause for the cause as we reach the bottom of the hour. When we return, we'll review much happier news from around the National Football League as we recap the games that took place yesterday. There was history being made all across America in Week 3 action from the National Football League, and we'll give you a quick preview of tonight's Monday night contest between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. You're listening to a Reaction Monday edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you. Keep it here.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast, or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Reaction Monday right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. Lakeena, let's go into some more happier news in reviewing the Week 3 action from the National Football League. Before we do, we want to remind you guys, if you want to comment on today's show regarding the Bears or any other action from yesterday's games from the National Football League, you could do so by going to our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago or on our YouTube page. Just search for Sports Zone Chicago. Place your questions or comments right in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let's start off in Western New York, the state that it is. The Buffalo Bills over the Washington Football Team 43-21. Josh Allen 358 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Zach Moss 60 yards rushing. Cole Beasley 11 receptions, 98 yards. It's Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised by the score. I mean, Washington kept it close. We said that they would, but again, there's too much talent on Buffalo, and look, they've been pretty much on a tear lately, especially since that opening loss to the Steelers. But look at Josh Allen's going back to being the Josh Allen that we know and love. Throwing for 4 touchdowns, and Zach Moss, sort of like then the kind of like the guy that sort of takes some of the the heat off Devin Singletary. So I think that helps a little bit. And yeah, look, I mean, their defense stepped up late, and Tremaine Edmonds, I should say, had 7 tackles, especially including 6 solo tackles. So it wasn't sort of like the prettiest game for the Bills, but they did just enough to win. So
in Detroit, Michigan, downtown Ford Field, the Detroit Lions lose a close one to the Baltimore Ravens by the score of 19-17. NFL history was made as kicker Justin Tucker nailed a 66-yard field goal to win it for the Baltimore Ravens after the Lions took the lead on a late touchdown run. Lakeena, I watched some of this game via my Caputa live. 2/3 of that game, the Detroit Lions outplayed the Baltimore Ravens. And you thought that after the Lions grabbed the lead late, they were on their way to a victory, but the jaws of victory was snatched away from them once again. Lamar Jackson for Baltimore, 287 yards passing and a touchdown pass. He also ran the ball for 7 times for 58 yards. Mark Andrews, the tight end for Baltimore, had 5 catches for 109 yards. Lakeena, the reason why Detroit is going to come into Chicago on a foul move because of what happened on the last play of the game yesterday.
Well, and if you heard the call from Greg Gumbel and Adam Archuleta, that call was sort of like that call was was A+ in of itself. I mean, again, not a pretty game. I mean, this is like the second time that Tucker has beaten the Lions, via game-winning field goal. I think the one couple of years ago was like 63 yards or something like that. It actually hit the crossbar and then went through the upright. So that shows you how crazy that is. And this is sort of like he's got the golden leg, if you will. And look, this is the second time in the history of the Lions that they've lost a game on a record-setting field goal. You got to go all the way back to 1970 when Tom Dempsey, who played for the Saints. I believe Archie Manning was the quarterback on that team. He had then record 63 yards to beat the Lions in New Orleans. So unfortunately, this has been par for the course for the Lions. But I mean, just an amazing. Again, this sort of like the letdown. After that big win against the Chiefs, we'll get to them in a second. But they were able to come back, and look, that's the kind of games you have to win it sometimes in the NFL. So again, not pretty, but you'll leave with the win if you're the Ravens.
Couple things here. One, Justin Tucker is one of the best kickers of his era. He was going to the Hall of Fame anyway, but now what he did yesterday, which that record will probably stand for a long time. I'm sure that his cleats, his helmet, his jersey, his pants for sure is probably at Canton, Ohio right now. So I'm sure it was wrapped up tight, COVID protected. FBI rushed in, National Guard rushed into Canton, Ohio. So Justin Tucker, I remember back in 2013, he hit a 61-yard field goal in that same building against the Lions about 8 years ago. So congratulations to him. Now, did you hear our call from our good friend Dan Miller on the Lions radio network?
I did not, but I heard it was legendary.
He didn't call Paul Allen of the Vikings from last week, but it's because we had him on the radio show a couple of years. Maybe we should get him off a Friday. Maybe we should get him off a Friday, see if he's okay.
Yes.
But bringing him on the Dean Davis. Yeah, we brought him in as a guest on the Dean Davis show whenever the Bears played the Lions throughout the last several years, and I always asked him the question: what was the strangest call that he's ever called? Of course, you can go back to the Monday Night Football game from a few years ago between the Packers and Lions. Of course, the Lions and Seahawks from a few years ago that KJ Wright batted the ball out of the end zone. Of course, the Thursday night game, I want to say back in 2016, Aaron Rodgers won on the Hail Mary. So there was a lot of crazy stuff that's happened to the Lions over the last decade, and they have Dan Miller, their radio voice, has been there for just about all of it. Of course, the playoff loss to the Cowboys back in 2014. There's a whole laundry list of it, but I thought of him yesterday, especially after I heard his call, which they played on Sports, and I was like, yeah, I feel for him right now.
we got to try to get him on, because I'm guessing that he's not having enough sleep right now. Oh my God. I mean, it was actually a great game, a crazy finish, but what's even crazier is the next thing we're actually going to talk about. Arizona pulled away from the Jaguars late, but at the end of the first half, Matt Prater actually tried a 68-yard field goal, but then Jamal Agnew takes it for like 100, I think it was like 112 or something like that, 110. The other way for a touchdown. They actually gave the Jags the lead. He actually has a 100+ return from a couple of weeks ago, I believe. So he's a nice player to have that multiple 100-yard touchdowns. But then things got back to normal. The Jags tried to flea flicker, and it was ran back for a pick six by Ryan Murphy Jr., I should say, who had another interception as well. So things kind of got back into it. I think it was more like the time zone and everything, and maybe the emotion. But the Cardinals did what they had to do.
Yeah, the all-brother crew and Gus Johnson, Aqib Talib. I did watch some of that game live via Makoputa. They have had two exciting games since they teamed up together for Fox. Selfishly, I don't think it's going to happen, but selfishly, I would want them to call this week's Bears-Lions game.
Oh, God.
Maybe something crazy happened in that game.
God. Oh, God. I don't want... I feel bad whoever gets that game for Fox. I really do. I can't.
I hope it's Gus Johnson and Aqib Talib. I doubt it, but nothing against those two. They do great work, but I'm laughing at it for the Bears' and Lions' sake.
well, Gus's call during that 100 plus yard, like going the other way, I think that was another legendary call.
Yes.
So if you guys haven't had a chance to, go back, go check it out on YouTube. But I mean, I feel sorry for whoever gets the game on Sunday for the Bears and Lions. I'm sorry. I apologize in advance.
Yeah. Instead of going down that rabbit hole, let's get this train back on track.
Yes.
It was the Tennessee Titans are now on a 2-game winning streak after they defeated the Indianapolis Colts 25-16. The Colts are 0-3 on the year. Carson Wentz did play yesterday, but didn't look that great. Ryan Tannehill, my fantasy football quarterback, boo. But he had 2 interceptions, but 3 touchdown passes to go along with 197 yards passing. Derrick Henry, 28 carries for 113 yards. And Michael Pittman Jr. for Indianapolis, 6 catches for 68 yards. Lakeena, A.J. Brown was missing from yesterday's action, the wide receiver from the Titans, but the Titans leaned heavily on running the football, and they got out of there with a victory.
Yeah, and I think that's what you want if you're the Titans. I mean, you have Derrick Henry for a reason. Use him, ran for 113 yards. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Indy. I think, maybe the injuries, and I think Quentin Nelson, got hurt again.
Yeah.
So he'll probably be out for a while. You could tell Wentz did not look good. So, things might be getting a little antsy over there in Indy, but we'll see. But look, a nice win for the Titans. They've won 2 in a row.
Yeah, an upset took place in Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium. It was as we call them on this show, the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles. They won on the last game-winning touchdown with 32 seconds to go, courtesy of Mike Williams. They got by the Kansas City Chiefs 30-24. Justin Herbert for the Chargers had 4 touchdown passes off 281 yards passing. Clyde Edwards-Helaire rushed for 100 yards for Kansas City off of 17 carries. Mike Williams, as I mentioned, had 2 touchdown catches, including the game winner, off of 7 catches for 122 yards. Again, I watched the majority of this game via Makoputa because CBS had a regional action, so it was not a doubleheader day for them.
Yes.
I know for you folks here in Chicago didn't get a chance to watch that game. If you had Red Zone or DirecTV, or like we do, watch it via our computers. You saw you were able to watch that game in its entirety. Lakeena, you couldn't ask for a better first half, especially opening drive. If you view the Chargers, they had 2 turnovers, created 2 turnovers off of Kansas City early. The second turnover turned into a touchdown. You had a quick 2-touchdown lead. Of course, the third quarter, Kansas City, as we all expected they would, they got back into the game, took a 3-point lead, but the Chargers grabbed momentum in the fourth quarter. Kansas City, they're still going to be a good team, but it's just right now, I'm not saying that they're going through the motions, but I think they expected to turn on the Jets and roll and dominate. They didn't happen yesterday.
Well, and also the Super Bowl hangover too. I mean, we see this with teams, who lose the Super Bowl. The Rams went through it. The Chiefs are going through it, and I think this is a nice one for the Chargers. I mean, they actually were all set to to try the field goal that would have tied it, but they got called for a false start. So, Brandon Staley said, what, let's go for it. And they were able to, they went for it. Now, I know some Chiefs fans are saying there was a couple of calls that, there was a pass interference call. And then, there was a couple other calls too. But again, they're not going to call those things late, in that instance. So look, I say, look, go for the Chargers, and look, they're 2-1 right now. And look, this is a big win that could definitely be key for winning that division. And look, I'm not going to say that, look, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. I'm not going to say that, oh my God, they should be panicking in Kansas City. But, again, this is sort of like one of those things where you have to, and thankfully Andy Reid's feeling much better too. I guess he suffered from dehydration and had to go to the hospital after the game, but glad he's feeling better. I think he's out of the hospital now, but it's just that, look, it's part of the Super Bowl hangover. I mean, that's just what happens.
In Foxborough, Massachusetts, it was the New Orleans Saints beating the New England Patriots 28-13. Jameis Winston with a couple of touchdown passes, including one that ended the first half with him almost being sacked off a penalty, but the penalty went against New England. Mac Jones for New England, 30-51 for 270 yards and a touchdown. Alvin Kamara from New Orleans had 24 carries for 89 yards. Kendrick Bourne from New England had 6 catches, 96 yards and a touchdown. Lakeena, the stats looks good for Mac Jones for the Patriots, but he struggled again, especially early in that game yesterday.
Yeah, he played like a rookie. That's
Yeah.
basically he played like a
Yeah.
rookie. He had three interceptions. Unfortunately, James White had to leave the game because of a hip injury, so there's no updates there, and they couldn't run the ball. So he was gone. So that also didn't help them either. And we got good Jameis. Yay! He had no interceptions. Yay! I'm not trying to insult him, but we got there's good Jameis and bad Jameis, and look, they really didn't need to depend on the run too much. I mean, they had short fields, and Taysom Hill had a rushing touchdown, which he has one like just about every other game. But it was their defense. Their defense sort of like helped, kind of propelled them. Jenkins had a pick six, so it look. I think we saw how good the Saints team is, and again the Patriots are going to have their growing pains. So I was not a believer in them being like the sleeper team coming out of the AFC. We're seeing right now, at least for right now, they're not.
In East Rutherford, New Jersey, at Giants Stadium, it was the Atlanta Falcons on the last-second field goal, defeating the New York Football Giants 17-14. Daniel Jones for the New York Giants had 266 yards passing. Saquon Barkley, who scored a touchdown in that game, had 16 carries for 51 yards. And Cordell Patterson, the former Chicago Bear, had 6 catches for 82 yards for the Falcons. Looking, I did watch some of this live via my computer in Red Zone. It was an ugly game to watch. The Giants had that opportunities, but Atlanta was very patient, especially late in the fourth quarter. Matt Ryan came through, and the Falcons deserved to win their first game of the year. They're 1-2, while the Giants are 0-3. Joe Judge, your head coach of the Giants, can we start to say pink slip and link card?
Well, you thought the Bears had problems. There are definitely some problems in New York. I mean, and look, they had a lot of injuries too. I think they had a couple of injuries. I think Sterling Shepard, got hurt, and I think another guy too from the Giants got hurt. So, but look, I think Matt Ryan is showing you why he's one of the top veteran QBs. I mean, he was able to kind of set up that game-winning field goal from Youngo, and look, can they turn the corner, the Falcons? I mean, we'll see as as the season goes on. But the Giants, I mean, look, I know some people who cover the Giants, they're not very happy. So, we'll see how it goes with them.
In the last of the early games, another upset took place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was the Cincinnati Bengals over the Pittsburgh Steelers 24-10. Ben Roethlisberger roughed up again, even though he passed for 318 yards and a touchdown. Joe Mixon ran the ball very well for Cincinnati, 18 carries for 90 yards. Najee Harris had 14 receptions for 102 yards for Pittsburgh out of the backfield. Jamar Chase, Lakeena, is showing his worth again as a rookie wide receiver out of LSU. He's making Joe Burrow look good. He had 2 more touchdowns yesterday. He scored a touchdown in the first 3 games of his NFL career.
Well, look, he helped make good when they won a national championship a couple of years ago when they were at LSU. But yeah. I mean, look, this is a Cincy team I thought we were going to see at Soldier Field. We did for maybe the back end of the game, but look, he didn't make any mistakes, Joe Burrow. I mean, they kept him upright. Yay! And unfortunately for Big Ben, not so much. He was sacked 4 times, and he didn't look good, Sid. I'm a little concerned about his health as the season goes because he's getting up there. He's 36 now. I'm a little afraid for him. And look, I mean, the Cincinnati team, they played a great complete game, so I wasn't that surprised, but they kind of, I don't want to say they dominated, but if you look at the numbers, they kind of did.
Yeah. If you paid attention to our picks right before the season started, you wonder why I had Pittsburgh out of the playoffs. You saw what happened yesterday. That was the reason why I had them out of the playoffs. You're listening to Second City Sports on a Reaction Monday, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Let's get into the late games, Lakeena. Let's get the ugly game out the way. It was the Denver Broncos 26, the Jets nothing. Teddy Bridgewater 235 yards passing. Melvin Gordon for Denver had 61 yards rushing in a touchdown. I know our good friend Spiro Ditas called that game yesterday. I'm sure he was just like the Denver Broncos. Don't do anything stupid. Get out of there and go home.
And it is just that they sacked Zach Wilson 5 times. I know the Broncos have benefited from a quote unquote. I'm doing the air quotes here for those of you who are listening. It's easy schedule, but look,
they're 3-0.
Yeah, so they did what they're supposed to do. I mean, like Terry Bridgewater's looked good so far. Their defense has been really good. I think, look, the ghost of he's not a ghost, he's still with us, but he had a good showing. And look, they had 3 interceptions. he had a couple interceptions, and it was, they sacked, like I said, Zach Wilson 5 times. I mean, look, don't do anything stupid. And look, I can picture big fans just saying the same thing. Like, don't do anything stupid. We can get out of here with a win, and that's what they did. So.
Another late game that took place on CBS in the regional action was the Las Vegas Raiders getting by the Miami Dolphins 31-28 on the last-second field goal in overtime. Derek Carr continues to show his worth to head coach John Gruden and anybody else who will listen and watch. Derek Carr had 386 yards passing on 2 touchdown passes. Peyton Barber had 23 carries, 111 yards, and a touchdown for the Raiders. And Brian Edwards had 3 catches for 89 yards. Lakeena, you couldn't ask for a better start for the Dolphins on the road with that pick 6 early.
Yep.
The Raiders, toward the end of that first half and into the second half, they dominated the Dolphins, especially running the football. They eked out another win in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Raiders, look, break them up. I mean, this is like the first time they've been 3-0 since, I think, 2002 when they went to the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, yeah.
So I think it's been a while. And look, I think that was just a strange game from start to finish, from the Roberts pick 6 and then all this other stuff. Then there were a couple of fumbles here and there, and then Miami came back to tie it, and it was just a very strange game all around. There was a safety too that kind of got the Raiders going, and it was just a strange game all around. Although it was very entertaining, and Iron Eagle and Charles Davis got a chance to call that one. And that was a pretty interesting game. But look, I mean, the Raiders, like I said, they're 3-0, and who would have thought that? You look at the AFC West right now, the Raiders and the Broncos are 3-0. The followed by the Chargers are 2-0. They should have been 3-0, but again, I'm not gonna we're not gonna go there. But and then the Chiefs are in last place, just like everyone had drew it up. So, but we got a lot of season left to go. But the AFC West looking pretty good.
In America's Game of the Week for Fox, it was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady's first game ever in the city of Los Angeles. The defending champion Buccaneers take one on the chin as they lose to the Los Angeles Rams 34-24. Tom Brady, 432 yards and a touchdown pass. Sonny Michel, Brady's former teammate, 20 carries, 67 yards for the Rams. Deshaun Jackson, hometown guy from Los Angeles, 3 catches, 120 yards and a touchdown. Lakeena, I believe Cooper Kupp scored as well. Los Angeles showed their worth. I know Tampa had a chance to get back into it. They did for a minute, but it was all about the Rams' defense, the passing. They just played an all-around complete game. You could tell they were prepared for this one. I
mean, and it's hard to believe that was Brady's first time playing in Los Angeles. I mean, that's crazy, but well, that SoFi Stadium was rocking, and I think the Rams were released right now as of September 27th. They're the best team in the NFL. I mean, they have a complete team. Stafford's getting into the rhythm there with the offense. Their running game, it was kind of by committee. I know Henderson was banged up, so he didn't play. But Sonny Michel, who is a veteran running back, picked up the slack. Deshaun Jackson show you he still has something left in the tank.
But she'll get hurt again, miss the rest of the season.
Well, okay. Don't Rams fans are like, no, don't you do that. Cooper Kupp looked really good. I mean, the defense, they didn't have the interceptions, but look, they did enough to kind of slow down the Bucs offense. Jalen Ramsey had 7 tackles. Leonard Floyd and Aaron Donald each had a sack, so they did enough, to kind of slow down Brady and them. And
did you say Leonard Floyd had a sack?
Yes, I did. Yes, he did. Yes, so.
He earned that contract extension in the off season.
yeah, right. Just go get the quarterback. That's basically why he's been so good. So they just told him to get the quarterback, and that's what he's been doing. So, and look, I don't know how you feel about it, Sid, but yeah, I think right now, again, still got a lot of season left to go, but the Rams look like they're the best team right now.
Yep, and I agree. In America's other game of the week, I actually watched the majority of this one via my computer live. It was the Minnesota Vikings picking up their first win of the season in their home opener, defeating the Seattle Seahawks 30-27. Kirk Cousins, 323 yards, 3 touchdown passes. Alexander Mattison, the backup running back for the Vikings. Dalvin Cook didn't play, but Mattison stepped in well, 26 carries, 112 yards. I picked him up on my fantasy team for yesterday. I have Dalvin Cook. And Madison gave me 20 points. Woohoo! Justin Jefferson, who's also on my fantasy team, 9 catches for 118 yards and a touchdown. Lakeena, It's a rare loss for the Seattle Seahawks on the East Coast. They have a tough game against the 49ers next week. We'll get to the 49ers in just a minute. But for the Vikings, they actually followed the game plan. They didn't step on anybody's toes. It's on their own toes. They didn't get in their own way. And they were dominant from the second half on.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised by this. I was actually watching the game via my laptop here, and look, this is like the best I've seen the Vikings play all year so far. And the Kirk Cousins didn't make any mistakes. Like I said, Madison, picked up the slack for Cook. They picked up Miller Abdullah. He actually had a good showing too, and Justin Jefferson, Tyler Conklin each had a touchdown catch, and look, I kind of feel like, look, this is a team that we thought would be capable of playing, and this is the Vikings that we expected. So hopefully, they'll turn the corner. And look, Mike Zimmer actually looked happy, which is not as happy as you would think he would be happy.
He was staring at a pink slip and a link card.
Well, yeah, that's
he
true,
still may be, but for today, he's not.
but they looked good, and I think that we'll see if they can kind of get it going. And look, I don't know what's going on with the Seahawks. They've lost 2 in a row, and look, I don't know what's going on over there, but I'm not liking what I'm seeing from the Seahawks team right now.
And in Sunday Night Football, it was the Green Bay Packers on the last-second field goal from Mason Crosby. They defeated the San Francisco 49ers 30-28. Aaron Rodgers, 261 yards passing. Great job by him on that in that 2-minute drill with 36 seconds left. He had 2 touchdown passes. Aaron Jones had 19 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Adams, 12 receptions, 132 yards and a touchdown. Lakeena, I watched 49ers post-game live, courtesy of our good friends from NBC Sports Bay Area out there in San Francisco last night. They have 3 analysts on there. Joe Staley, who retired a couple of years ago, Takeo Spikes, and Dante Winder. Takeo Spikes, I thought, brought up a good point. I know 49ers fans are split between Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, but I thought that Takeo Spikes brought up a good point on the post-game show last night. I think you can catch it on YouTube as well. Just search for NBC Sports California, NBC Sports Bay Area. And he said this about Jimmy Garoppolo. The reason why the 49ers are struggling early is because Jimmy Garoppolo is struggling early. You saw he had that turnover on I want to say the second drive against the Lions on opening day. The offense started out slow in Philadelphia last week. They got away with it with the win. Last night they started out slow, but took the lead into halftime, but they couldn't hold off the Green Bay Packers, and that's what came and bite them in the butt.
Yeah, and I think that was sort of like the thing, when I know people want to say that, Kyle Juszczyk should have, been tackled. Look, you try to tackle Juszczyk. I mean, he's a big guy. Try taking him down. Go ahead.
Performance Mike Allstott.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, look, he was going to get into the end zone, regardless, whether he was going to where he was going to land. So, 37 seconds. I know the Packers didn't have any timeouts, but that's Aaron Rodgers over there, folks. That's Aaron Rodgers over there. And if you saw his emotion, and we said, look, we didn't believe in the conspiracy theory that, he's trying to suck so he can get out of there. He wants to get traded in the middle of the season, blah blah blah. If you saw his reaction, and especially when he spiked the ball, and Mason Crosby was up for a 51 yard game-winning field goal, he was excited. And look, it wasn't pretty, but this is what the type of games that the Packers like to play. So, and look, we'll see. I mean, they've won, like I said, they've won 2 in a row, and we'll see if they can kind of get it going. And that's a scary thing if you're in the Packers division, if you're the NFC North, Bears fan. So he still has this renewed interest, and he feels rejuvenated. So I think that helps a lot.
And I know we're up against it, but week 3 of the NFL wraps up tonight with the Monday Night Football matchup between 2 1-1 NFC East division rivals in the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, the Cowboys had a last-second field goal, courtesy of Greg Zerline, in last week at Los Angeles against the Chargers. While the Philadelphia Eagles suffered their first loss of the year last week against the 49ers, as I mentioned a moment ago. These 2 teams play each other tonight at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN. The Eli Manning and Peyton Manning broadcast will be on ESPN2 at the same time. Lakeena, coming into this game, the Dallas Cowboys, the offense, even though they only put up 17 points at Los Angeles last week, it seems like the offense is starting to get back on track. I know people are concerned about Ezekiel Elliott. He didn't have that great of a game last week. I know he had a touchdown, but Tony Pollard had over 100 yards last week. On the flip side, for the Eagles, they didn't look good against the 49ers in that whole opener. Actually, still had a chance to take that game last week, 7-3 going into the fourth quarter, but they just couldn't put the ball in his end zone in the red zone when they were entering the red zone. So what gives tonight? I think it's going to be a close battle. It always is between these two teams, but I believe that Dallas is going to do enough to get by Philadelphia. And keep this in mind, folks. Brandon Graham's injury on the defensive side for Philadelphia, this is where it's going to start to hurt, and you're going to see that starting tonight.
Well, also remember too, Lyle Collins is out too for the Cowboys, because he was suspended, so that could also play a big part too. So I'm kind of like this. We might see these. It's like one of those 9-6, 6-3 type games. So I would say,
1970s football from Lakeena. She loves it, folks.
I didn't say I loved it, but I just said that be prepared if that happens. And look, there's gonna be a lot of emotion there too. Drew Pearson is gonna be honored at halftime. With his Hall of Fame, you guys get his Hall of Fame ring. And I'm sure like everybody, a cast of thousands, former Cowboys are going to be there. So I think they're probably going to feel out the emotion. That's why I think the Cowboys will do enough to win the game though.
And we both picked the Cowboys on our last episode on Friday. So watch out for the Eagles and Cowboys doing battle tonight on ESPN at 7:00 Central Standard Time for Monday Night Football. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight.
Oh, we can do our studs and duds right quick.
Oh crap! Okay, I didn't even think about that. The kid from Jacksonville who returned the
I knew, yes.
Yeah, he gets my one stud. Let's see another stud. Another stud. I'll give it to Myles Garrett from Cleveland, what he did to the Bears, and of course Justin Tucker, my third stud from Baltimore.
Well, you took one of my studs. I had Justin Tucker.
You can still have them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna say I'm sure we don't mind it, but I'll say both the LA teams too. The Rams and the Chargers got big wins. So Chargers on the road, and of course the Rams. So, all right. So on the flip side, what about your duds?
Duds. Jacksonville, New England, and Pittsburgh.
I have Pittsburgh as one of my duds. Let's see real quick. I'll say Tampa Bay just because they couldn't really get anything going. And also Seattle. I don't know what's going on over there, but it's not looking good right now.
All right. Now hour number 1 is in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead. When we return, we'll get into the White Sox. And the best and worst from the weekend around Major League Baseball is Media Day in the NBA as the training camps open up today. And we'll get into the Saturday that was from the world of college football. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sidney Brown. You're listening to Second City Sports exclusively on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, hour number 2 for this Monday. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sidney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidK80. Once again, at SidK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
And you can listen to the show, Second City Sports, every Monday and Friday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. That's from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Once again, every Monday, every Friday, live and in living color on Sports Zone Chicago from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps, whether it's an Apple iTunes Store or Google Play. Make sure that app says Sports Zone Chicago. You can listen to any of our live shows. If you miss it, you can catch them on the replay on that app. Lakeena, let's get into some baseball. The White Sox are 88-68, currently 20 games over 500. They clinched the AL Central Division title last Thursday in Cleveland. They took 3 out of 5 from the Tribe. That's the last time we get to call the Cleveland Indians the Tribe, because next year they will be called their new name, the Guardians. We know, before you yell at us, we know that they have a makeup game in progress right now in Detroit. Bottom 3 in Motown and Comerica Park. We have Detroit. Akil Baddoo has an RBI single. The Tigers lead the White Sox by the score of 1-0. Dallas Keuchel is the starting pitcher for the White Sox today. Lakeena, let's review the series for the White Sox in that 5-gamer against Cleveland. They take 3 out of 5. Yesterday's game, no home runs, but 2 big RBIs by Eloy Jimenez. Yeah, great pitching for Lucas Giolito. Liam Hendricks shut it down. And the White Sox, it looks like they're starting to have a little confidence going, a little groove going, as we have 6 games remaining, including today's game against the Tigers, remaining for the White Sox in this 2021 regular season. I like what I'm seeing from them. I'll get to what I saw on Saturday in just a moment. But yesterday's game, they got back on track after losing on Saturday. It was nice to see they got back on track, doing what they need to do to win, using that formula they're going to have to use come playoff time.
Well, the small ball. Sometimes you got to do that, especially to win the playoffs. And I'm glad, and I'm glad they realize that. And I'm sure that they'll play that. Giolito had 6 scoreless innings, which I think that's what you want to, especially if he wants to be a part of that playoff rotation. And then look, I mean, okay, you won 3 out of 5. That was a long series too, because a couple of those were makeup games. But you did what you had to do. The White Sox did. You need that confidence going into this last week of the season. And it's. I mean, look, you're set. You're probably gonna be in the 3 seed, because it looks like Houston has a 2 seed on lock. It looks like, but again, look, you did what you're supposed to do, and it's it is what it is. It's fine.
You're 3 games back as of today against the versus Houston for the number 2 seed. Is it possible for them to catch them? I believe so. We'll get to what happened in Houston over the weekend in just a moment, but it's still possible for the White Sox. You just want to get on the groove, start a nice little winning streak, building up confidence, building up good habits, building up momentum, heading to next Thursday for the playoffs, which starts on October 7th, which is my birthday, by the way. So the pitching rotation sets up perfectly. Ronaldo Lopez will go tomorrow against Cincinnati. Carlos Rodon will go on Wednesday. I want to see how many innings that he pitches. If he pitches less than 5 innings, there's still going to be trouble in paradise, because he's one of the guys you're counting on as far as being in that starting rotation come playoff time. And of course, they have an off day on Thursday. Friday is Giolito or Lance Lynn against the Tigers. Same thing on Saturday. If it's not Giolito, it's Lance Lynn. And then, of course, on Sunday in the regular season finale against the Tigers at home, it will be Dylan Cease. So Tony La Russa has his rotation for the playoffs, looks like set up perfectly. So it's time for the White Sox to get on a roll. They took 3 out of 5 from Cleveland. You have a soft schedule between now and the end of the season. As we said, Lakeena, before the season started, I had them winning 90 games. 91, 92 games. It looks like they're going to meet that mark. Perhaps maybe a couple more wins, more than we expected, but this is going to be a 90-plus win team. And that's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of a good thing, especially too. I mean, look, you play with who you play in your schedule. I know some fans would probably rather they play like some of the top teams so they can kind of get into the groove on their way into the playoffs. But look, if you beat up the teams that you're supposed to beat up, and it's fine. I mean, you would rather be in a groove, especially you don't want to be limping into the playoffs. So I think that's again, look, we're not going to get too much out of I think Lewis is going to start resting guys, I believe. So it's okay. I mean, like what they're in the division, they'll get the 3 seed. So I'm not like too concerned about it right now.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you. If you want to comment on the White Sox or anything else that happened in the world of baseball from this past weekend, you could do so on our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago or on our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago. Leave your comments and questions in the comments section. Lakeena will put them up on the air and read them to you. Lakeena, Carlos Rodon, I'm not going to say I'm not worried, but what will happen on Wednesday will tell if Rodon is going to be a key factor in the playoffs, because as I said before, just a couple of seconds ago, if he pitches less than 5 innings, something's going on and we just don't know about. I know Carlos Rodon's a free agent at the end of the year and he's looking out for himself, and I get it. But if he pitches less than 5 innings, something's wrong. And I know that this is first world problems for the White Sox, because this is why we give a shout out to GM Rick Conlon. You have so much depth among this roster. If you and we talked about it with Christine Manica on Friday, our guest for this year for the pick'em segment for the NFL. In the perfect world, you want to rest Rodon just in case something happens on Wednesday. If you happen to get by the Astros in the division series, you could save Rodon for the American League Championship Series. But you can have things planned out well, but anything can happen. But I'm waiting to see what happens in this start for Rodon on Wednesday.
I look, I'm a little concerned about him. I'm not gonna lie. I think he listens to the comments. I know he wants to. I don't want to say downplay. I think he wants to reassure folks that look, I'm fine. I just need a little rest. Blah blah blah. But I would rather he would make his start so that we can see that he is ready for the playoffs. If he's not going to be 100%, need to tell us now. And if you're going to need Rodon, and look, we don't know how Keuchel is. You may try to put Kopech in there. You may have a couple other guys that you may want to think about in case Rondon can't go. But I'm a little concerned, especially we had tired arm and this. I'm just not. This isn't. I don't want to say I don't want to like flashing red lights or that kind of thing. But I'm a little. I think the level of concern, I would say, if it's scale 1 to 10, is probably like about a 6 right now.
I think we said this all throughout the whole second half of the year. Lakeena, your top starter is Lance Lynn, which I'll get to what I saw for him on Saturday in just a moment. But your game 1 starter will most likely be Lance Lynn. Your game 2 starter will most likely be G. Alito. He had a great outing yesterday. His pitch count has been building up over the last 3 starts since he's returned from the IL. In your game 3 starter right now, he had a great game on Friday, and that's Dylan Cease.
Yeah, well, and I'm it looks like he's doing pretty well too. I know he was a little bit banged up in his last start, but it's but like I said, I think better to have these injuries now than actually during the playoffs. So you want to hope that if someone is hurt or if someone goes through a slump, you have somebody else there to kind of pick up the slack. So if you're Tony La Russa, look, this is your first rodeo, I should say. So you know what to do. You know to take pieces in and out whenever you need to.
Yeah, scoring update, top 4 in Detroit. The White Sox just tied the game at 1, courtesy of Yasmani Grandal's solo shot into right field. So the White Sox and Tigers are tied at 1 in the top of the 4th inning in Detroit. We'll keep you posted between now and 2 o'clock. Lakeena, let's talk about Yasmani Grandal in that Sox offense. As I mentioned in yesterday's game, no home runs, but almost disastrous base running between Tim Anderson and Billy Hamilton. But Billy Hamilton scored with his speed that they gave the White Sox a little cushion. I know Luis Robert had a solo shot on Friday in that 1-0 game against the Indians, helping out Dylan Cease. Saturday's game, they were missing in action, and I'll get to Lance Lynn in just a second, but that offense, it looks like it's starting to come around a bit, as we saw on Thursday in that game 1 of the doubleheader, which clinched the division. They started to manufacture runs. I know they did it with the long ball twice, courtesy of Tim Anderson, but it seems to me that these guys are locked in and they're ready to go. As we mentioned, Lakeena, you cannot always depend on the home run. You have to manufacture runs, and you have to have some, not just stealing bases, but you got to have smart base running as well, because let's be honest, that's been the White Sox's Achilles heel over the last few years or so. We may not have paid attention to it as much this year, but it's been a problem here and there this year as well.
It has, and you hope that's not going to be a problem, going to the playoffs. Because if they actually do end up playing Houston, a veteran team like Houston will take advantage of that. So you better hope that's not going to be a problem. But again, like I said before, we talked about it last week. I mean, you want guys that if Abreu or Anderson, or you want guys like Grandal, you want guys like Hamilton to kind of step up. And also Andrew Vaughn, too, if he's going to be a part of the playoff roster. You want guys like that to step up in case those top guys, they go into a slump. The last thing you want is to have everybody go into the slump at the exact same time, which is something that you hope that doesn't happen. But and look, I kind of like how he's doing it, but and again, it's going to be very interesting to see where this goes with the White Sox, because I kind of feel like I think the sky's the limit for them, but also too weird things happen, especially in the divisional series. So you hope that like a pass ball or an error, or you just miss a home run, or you get a strikeout. You don't want that kind of thing to kind of come back to bite you in the butt. So,
speaking of biting things in the butt, let's turn our attention to the rest of Major League Baseball, since we have less than a week to go now between now and the end of the regular season. The Boston Red Sox, I believe they're still tied with the Yankees for the AL Wild Card lead. They got swept. Yeah, they got swept by the Yankees over the weekend. Lakeena, I did watch some of that action last night, switching between that and Sunday Night Football. Aaron Judge with the go-ahead RBI, two-run RBI double. Giancarlo saying that ball is still going over the Green Monster.
Have they found either one of those balls yet? So like, have they found any of them?
Yeah, he had a great series over the weekend. 3 home runs, 10 RBI. The pitching was good enough for the Yankees. The Red Sox, as I told you, Lakeena, all year, they've been doing it with offense. I don't like the back end of their rotation. Their bullpen's been suspect at best. What did I say all year long? It came true this weekend if you paid attention to that series.
Yeah, and look, I'm sure if you're the Red Sox fan, you're probably like just kicking yourself right now. And look, the good news is that you can kind of get back into it. But then you got Toronto sort of like behind you, and also you have Seattle too, and they got both of them have a big series coming up. So we'll get to that in a second. But that series, I think the Yankees we all had the Yankees left for dead. It turns out, they're alive. So again, we'll see how far they go as we get into like this late week of the season.
Also, too, congratulations to the Milwaukee Brewers for finally clinching the NL Central Division Championship for 2021. They defeated the hapless New York Mets 8-4. Lakeena, as I said, throughout the last couple of months, the Milwaukee Brewers are the National League's version of the Chicago White Sox, running away with the Central Division. As I said before, the last few weeks, it's between them and the San Francisco Giants for home field advantage throughout the NL playoffs. Whoever gets, I believe, will represent the National League in the World Series.
Yeah, it's good. And like I said before, the Brewers kind of had a little bit of a setback, but we'll see how that how that ends for them. And look, I think that it took them a while. That they'll probably tell you that it took them longer than it should have. I'm sure Craig Counsell will tell you that, but they did enough to win the division. They were kind of well out in reach. Now, as far as the NL East is concerned, the Braves and the Phillies, they played tonight. The Braves are 2.5 up.
This is it for Philadelphia. They're not getting the wild card. I'll explain why in a minute, but this is it for Philadelphia. They must take 2 out of 3 or sweep.
I think you got to sweep. I think you want to take it out your hands and kind of put yourself in the driver's seat in the division, because they're 2.5 up. So, I mean, are they capable? I mean, look, it helps they have them at home, which is a good thing. Well, actually, they're going to Atlanta. And actually, that first game will be tomorrow on FS1, so make sure you guys check that out. I think this is it for if you're the Phillies, because you're not going to be able to, you're not going to win the wild card, so you might as well just forget about that. So this is sort of like, this is the season for you. So if you better get it together.
Yep. And speaking of the NL wildcard race, the San Diego Padres are officially eliminated. Cincinnati's still mathematically in there, but they'll be eliminated too within the next couple of days or so, which brings up the St. Louis Cardinals. They're on the current 16-game winning streak after sweeping away the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs home schedule, that part of their home schedule for the 2021 season is over. It is in the sweep in the hands of the Cardinals. And I want to ask this question to our audience, but first to you, Lakeena. Gabe Kapler, who's the manager of the San Francisco Giants, they're going to win the NL West, I'm sure. They have over 100 wins. They've been the surprise team in baseball from start to finish, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Mike Shildt, the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, they got hot over the last month and a half. And it looks like they're going to win 90-plus games to secure that second wild card spot behind the Los Angeles Dodgers, who already have over 100 wins. Could you make a serious argument for Mike Shildt for St. Louis being the National League Manager of the Year? We all thought it was a runaway for Gabe Kapler of San Francisco.
I still think it is. I still think it is.
You still think it is?
Yes. Because look, the Cardinals, people thought the Cardinals were going to be right there in the NL Central. Yeah, they had this nice little run late. Now, this could go one of two ways for them. They keep it up and they get to the LCS or whatever, or they could end up losing in the divisional round. That's it for me. And look, Kepler, no one was expecting nothing from the Giants. People thought the Giants are going to be, selling off guys. To me, I think Kepler's the clear winner here.
But I don't think it's a clear runaway as we think. Yes,
what makes you think that? What makes you think that, though?
Here's the thing. The Cardinals had injuries just like the White Sox, just like the Cubs, but it's the Cardinals didn't sell out their guys at the trade deadline. They picked up veterans like John Lester and a couple other backup guys. And in the middle of August, they decided to go on a run. Paul Goldschmidt, their first baseman, decided to pick it up. Nolan Arenado started to turn around, and their starting pitchers started to turn around as well. Now, I'm not hating on Gabe Kapler. Like I said, they've been winning from start to finish. But who expected St. Louis to win almost when it looks like they're going to win over 90 games to clinch the second wildcard spot? Yes, folks, this is a regular season war. We get that. But who expected the Cardinals to win 16 games in a row, let alone be in this position with the last week to go in the regular season? They were in the same position as the Cubs in June. We all, including yours truly, counted them out. Who expected them to be on the verge of winning 90-plus games and knocking 3-4 teams off to go to the playoffs for a chance to play the Los Angeles Dodgers? No one did.
But did anybody have the Giants, be right there for the NL West division?
No, they didn't. I'll give you that the Cardinals were more the favorite going into the season in terms of making it in the playoffs than the Giants. I get where you're coming from, but the way that the St. Louis Cardinals have played over the last month and a half, Mike Shildt should get more credit. I'm not hating on Gabe Kapler. The Giants organization, their team has had a great year. I'm just saying Mike Shildt should steal votes from Kapler for NFL Manager of the Year. Yeah, he'll get a token vote. I get it, but you can make a real case for him winning NFL Manager of the Year.
Yeah, look, I get it. Look, I'm not belittling what he's done, but again, they got hot. Again, this is only could go one of two ways. They could end up, going all the way to NLCS, or they could end up losing in NLDS. I mean, that's all. There's only two ways they can go for the Cardinals at this point. No one expected the Giants to get this far, and look, if you look at their roster, I mean, look, they got a bunch of cast. I don't want to say cast-offs and misfits, but you got. Yeah. I mean, look. I mean, it's sort of like look. Look, you got to give credit to Kepler for what he's done with a bunch of a lot of these guys. A lot of people thought were going to be gone, and they got Chris Bryant. They've been playing even better. He's actually been very productive for them. So, and look, I think. Look, I'm sure he'll get his votes, but I think Kepler, he won't run away with it. I'll give you that, but I think he'll definitely have a lot more first place votes. But that's just my opinion.
Whose side are you on? Yours truly for Mike Schilt for NL Manager of the Year for the St. Louis Cardinals, or you're on Lakeena's side, who has Gabe Kapler as her National League Manager of the Year from the San Francisco Giants? You can place your comments in our comment sections right here on YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago, or on our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago. Place your votes right there in the comment section. Lakeena will get those comments and votes up on the air for you. Lakeena, I just think that Mike Schilt doesn't get the credit that he deserves. I know he's a Tony La Russa protege. Yeah, I know that they were left for dead in the middle of the season. They had the same situation as the Cubs, but they righted the ship while the Cubs and Jay Hoyer, they did what they did. But the Cardinals, they're on the verge of winning 90 games. And no, it's not in typical 90-win fashion like the San Francisco Giants starting from day one up until game 162. But they should be given more credit right now. I know people are going to look at the hot streak. Oh, yeah, they got lucky. Look who they played. You play the teams on the schedule. You shouldn't apologize for it. As we said before, if you're a good team, you play at or slightly at 500 against the good teams, you should dominate the bad teams. And that's what the St. Louis has been doing over the last month or so.
Should be interesting. Now, some very interesting series coming up starting tomorrow for some of these. You got the Yankees in Toronto. This is a big for Toronto if you want to stay, within distance of that AL wild card.
Could you call this an elimination series for Toronto?
I think so. I think it is. Yeah,
I think so too.
We talked about Philly and Atlanta. This, Philly needs to, at the very least, win the series, if not sweep. I think that might be if you're the Philly, you better hope you can sweep. That's starting tomorrow as well. The A's and the Mariners are going to be playing each other too. They're playing each other again tonight.
Yeah, who eliminates who first?
Yeah,
that's what's going to come down to.
St. Louis and Milwaukee, that's another one, another big series. San Diego and the Dodgers. I know San Diego, we'll see how they look. Are they going to be kind of like dragging along? They've been eliminated from the playoffs. So,
or will they play spoiler? Yeah, or will they play spoiler in terms of the Dodgers winning that NL West?
Arizona and San Fran. Look, I think Arizona's trying to show a little bit of fight. So if you're in San Fran, don't take them lightly. Fortunately, the Dodgers lost one of their games. They lost their Saturday game, so against the Diamondbacks. So now they're the two game hole. But again, we'll see how they look. Tampa Bay and Houston. This is more for like seeding purposes, I think. This could be a ALCS preview. We might see. This is all kind of like for seeding. I think both of Houston. Remember, Houston has not clinched their division yet, so that could be another.
And they got swept over the weekend against Oakland.
Yes, they did. So Oakland still showed a little bit of fight. And also, like I said, speaking of Oakland and Seattle, they have a 4-gamer, so this could be an elimination game for elimination series, I should say, for them. So some really interesting series coming up this weekend in MLB.
Yeah, we're starting to see things come into clear view now. As we said, we are 6 days away from the regular season ending next Sunday. As we said, for some of these key series, it's an elimination series for the teams trailing. If you're in 3rd, 4th, 5th place in your wild card standings, like Seattle, Oakland, Philadelphia, going back to the National League. As I said before, they do not have a chance of for the wild card, but they got to take 2 out of 3 from Atlanta. Sweeping should be the first thing on their mind. It's going to be difficult, but sweeping almost guarantees them with that a bad chance for them winning the division. If you take 2 out of 3, that knocks a game off. You still in it, but you still playing with house money. But if you take 1 out of 3 or get swept, it's over for you.
Yeah, I think that's sort of. I think if you're the Phillies, this is you. I think you would prefer the sweep. That way they can get a little bit of a cushion there. You'll be a half game up.
Yeah.
If they went 2 out of 3, I mean, yeah, you're still going to be up a game and a half. But the Braves play the Mets. We'll talk about that on Friday's show. But the Braves play the Mets this weekend, and let me see if I can get who Philly plays real quick. We'll see how the Mets are. They've been eliminated. And also, Philly plays Miami. Miami, they've had their issues with Miami this year, so you better. So, So this is kind of like going to be the series here. So if you want a chance to win the division, it's division or bust because you're not going to get in the wild card. So if you're the Phillies, you better hope you can sweep Atlanta.
Yeah, scoring update from Detroit. The White Sox, the top of the 4th inning has been magic for them. They have put up a 6th spot as they lead the Tigers by the score of 6-1 in the top of the 4th inning with 1 out and a man on. Lakeena, as we said before, the White Sox, they have only 1 home run so far today. That's courtesy of Yasmani Grandal, but the other 5 runs have been courtesy of of manufacturing runners over in smart base running. We're starting to see that again here today from the Southsiders.
Yeah, it looks like I'm sure. Look, I'm sure if you're the White Sox, you want to try to win as many games as you can. That way, you can have momentum going into the playoffs. So yeah, so far so good for the White Sox. Excuse me. Now we're up against it, sis. So we gotta take a really quick break, but don't worry, we're excuse me, I can't talk for some reason. We're gonna talk some college football, some big upsets there. Also, too, the NBA starts their media day with a couple of guys that are not going to be practicing just yet for the Bulls and a few others. So we'll get you, and also to our Ryder Cup update, whether Sid likes it or not.
You're gonna make it quick.
Maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll see. We're sitting around on Lakeena begin the Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll see you on the other side of this break. And it is really quick.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17 passing, 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the blue star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to our last segment for this Monday edition of Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakeena and McGee. I am Sidney Brown. Lakeena, let's review some of the key games from this past Saturday in week 4 from the world of college football. Starting right here in Chicago, it was number 12 Notre Dame over number 18 Wisconsin, 41-13. It was an ugly slug-out defensive battle for the first 2.5, 3 quarters, but Notre Dame took advantage of Wisconsin's mistakes in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, they had the punt return for a touchdown. Oh, yeah, okay, yippee, okay. Wisconsin did not look very good, and they think the talent just isn't there for them this year. And that defense, okay, yippee. All right, let's keep going. Like I said, I'm sorry, I'm not like. I can't really get excited over a Notre Dame win. I'm sorry. Just keep going.
I'm not a Notre Dame fan either, but you had to give them props for what they did on Saturday here in Chicago. It was number 6 Penn State over Villanova, 38-17.
Yeah, nice showing for Penn State. No letdown for them. And look, Villanova was actually a pretty good team from the FCS. Yes, I know people were calling, wait, but Villanova's got a football team because they've been so successful in basketball. Yes, they
brought it up on Friday.
Yeah, they actually have a pretty good football team as well, the FCS. I think they've actually been to the finals a few times in recent years. So, they've got to look. I mean, Clifford had a nice showing, throwing for 400 yards. Yeah, so they just not to win that game. So it's okay. Like you'll take it if you're Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sid. Sorry.
Yeah, let's keep it in the Big Ten family. It was Northwestern 35, Ohio 6. Pat Fitzgerald and the boys get back on track.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, on Friday, Ohio's kind of going through the motions. Frank Solich retired. They got a new staff, so they're kind of implementing that. They're 0-3, unfortunately, now. And look, Northwestern. Look, if you're Northwestern, you'll take the win because you needed that win after some of the other losses that you have this so far in the first early weeks of the season. So.
The Minnesota Golden Gophers were upset at home by Bowling Green by the score of 14-10.
The Mighty Falcons of Bowling Green.
Yes.
They were favored, I guess, by like 30.5. The Gophers, I mean. That was the largest upset, time for the largest upset. So if you took Bowling Green and the under, you had a pretty good Saturday. So
yeah.
I'm sure PJ Fleck's going to be smarting over this one. So just not a good loss for the Golden Gophers.
In the Battle of Texas, it was the Longhorns over the Texas Tech Red Raiders 70-35. I definitely missed this one.
Well, I mean,
I thought it was a basketball score, but it wasn't.
Yeah, they scored. Yeah, I mean, this is I think the last time they scored 70 was when Vince Young led them to the national championship. Over Colorado, where Joel. Here's a trivia for you. Joel Klatt was a quarterback for Colorado that game, the Big 12 championship game. They got shellacked. Go on YouTube, look up the 05 Big 12 championship, 70-3. Good grief. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to say Texas is back. I'm not going to try to be funny about it. But look, I think if you're Texas, I think you'll take the win. And if you're Sarkisian, I think you have a good showing as you get deeper and deeper into Big 12 play.
Still undefeated out of the Big East, I still believe. It was the Boston College Golden Eagles over the ACC now. Tells you where my head's in. It's still at being old school. It was Boston College 41-34 in overtime over the Missouri Tigers.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty good game. I caught a little bit of that.
So did I. I will say this about Boston College. I saw a stat. They haven't been undefeated this early since 2007. That was Matt Ryan's the quarterback. It's been a long time.
Yes, it has. And they play like they can run the ball. Garwo the third. I mean, he can run the ball. So he might he's only a sophomore, so he might be a guy. I know like a lot of Eagles fans are gonna be lobbying for him to get some Heisman consideration, but he got over 400 rushing yards this year. So I'm kind of like in that realm of, I think BC and Wake Forest are undefeated in the ACC. So, I'm kind of like, wow, no one really saw that coming.
Yeah, this next game took place in Dallas. It was number 16, the Arkansas Razorbacks. They get by number 7, Texas A&M 20-10.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, I think, Sam Pittman, who's a coach there, he's looking really good right now for Arkansas. He had to wait like 30 years for his first head coaching job. And look at that. So, yeah, but CJ Jefferson, who's their quarterback for Arkansas, I have to say though, and Arkansas has a tough one against Georgia on Saturday, so we'll see if they're for real. But we'll see if Arkansas is for real.
Yeah, speaking of Georgia, they get by their opponent by Vanderbilt 62-0. So, like you said, Arkansas better be ready for next week because Georgia, we all know they're a physical team up front, especially on that offensive defensive lines. Arkansas is the same way, but they're growing, they're improving every week. So we'll see what happens there. Continuing with our review of college football week 4 from Saturday as you're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you. Let's stay in the state of Illinois. Northern Illinois, the Huskies, they get by Maine by the score 41-14. But the final line, they didn't do so well. They lost to Purdue by the score 13-9. Staying in the Big Ten, it was Maryland over Kent State 37-16. Let's go out to the West Coast. San Diego State, they get by Townsend 48-21. And number 9, Clemson, they were upset by NC State by the score of 27-21 in 2 overtimes.
Yeah, which breaks, I believe, a 34-game winning streak in the ACC. So, I don't know if it's a talent there. The talent just isn't there at the moment, or maybe because they're young, but it's just not there for them right now. And I'm sure a lot of Clemson fans are a little, freaked out about it because they're not used to being in this situation. But again, I don't really know what to say about this. I mean, Look, give the Wolfpack their due. I mean, I think this is the first time in 15 years that they've beaten a ranked team in the ACC. So, good for them. And like I said, we'll see how it goes for Clemson, but it's not good for them right now.
From the Big House, it was number 19, the Michigan Wolverines. They get by Rutgers by the score of 20-13.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think Michigan made that a little more interesting than it needed to be. So, but yeah, right. I mean, but look, I think Michigan just did just enough to win it, and you'll take it if you're Jim Harbaugh, because look, Rutgers has given them a hard time the last couple of times they played, and Grace Young's actually had them playing pretty well, Rutgers. So I'm really not surprised that it kind of got so wire like that. But Michigan did just enough to win that game. Their defense did so.
Yeah, number 23 Auburn Tigers, after losing at Happy Valley last Saturday night, they get back on track with a 34-24 win over Georgia State. Speaking of basketball schools, it was Duke over Kansas in football, 52-33. Go figure that one out. Let's go over to the West Coast. It was number 24, the UCLA Bruins, getting by Stanford 35-24.
Yeah.
Chip Kelly's back on the cool seat for the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for UCLA, you needed that win after losing to Fresno State. So you really needed a win like that. Unfortunately, for SC, I mean, you lose a tough one to Oregon State, 45-27. And if you looked at the Rose Bowl, Sid, it did not, that place, like, good grief.
Number 11, the Florida Gators. They dominate the Tennessee Volunteers 38-14. And going back to the Big Ten in overtime, it was number 20, Michigan State. The Spartans, they get by the Nebraska Cornhuskers 23-20.
Yeah, they needed overtime to beat them. After Nebraska had a chance to actually seal that win, but they made some mistakes too. So you'll take the win though if you're Mel Tucker. But that was a crazy game from start to finish there. Well, here's the thing though about that Miami score. They beat Central Connecticut State from the FCS 69-0. Dick Vitale made a thing where, well, how dare they run up the score and blah blah blah. I mean, like Alabama does at least like once a year to an FCS score.
We're still using that 1970s, 80s argument running up the score. I mean, let it go. God,
it's always with Miami. Always with Miami. Always. Miami. Everyone else, Notre Dame has done it over years before. Alabama does at least once a year to somebody. But then it says Miami does it. It's a problem. Really?
Let it go, people. Let it go. It's 2021. But anywho, the Saturday night showcase game, the number 4 ranked Oklahoma Sooners, they get by West Virginia on the last second field goal, 16-13. Lakeena, the one word for this game was defense. I expected some high scoring, didn't get it. West Virginia had their chances, but Oklahoma escaped with the last second field goal win.
Yeah, and for people who were, and then for the folks that were chanting, Spencer Rattler, for his replacement Caleb Williams. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, look, West Virginia's defense actually is pretty good. So for anybody that was chanting him to replace Rattler, it's not his fault mostly. I mean, we told you on Friday, West Virginia can score. They actually can play pretty good defense. So
yeah,
but they were able to pull that out. And look, you're going to have those kind of games in the Big 12. So.
Yeah, number 21, North Carolina, the Tar Heels, they were upset by the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets 45-22. And going back to the West Coast, Pac-12 football, Washington gets by California 31-24 in overtime. Arizona State, Herm Edwards, they get back on track with a 35-13 win over the Colorado Buffaloes. And number 3, Oregon, they dominate the Arizona Wildcats. I think they're still winless, 41-19.
Yeah, Arizona's got some new people there, so yeah, it's gonna be a tough season for the Wildcats. Going back to that Arkansas A&M game, this is actually the first time that Arkansas has beaten both Texas and Texas A&M in the same season. You got to go all the way back to 1988 when they were all in the Southwest Conference together. So let's go a little old school trivia there. But like I said, it's gonna be tough though because they got to play Georgia this weekend. So
yeah, as we mentioned, every Friday during our second segment of the show in our first hour for our Hashtag Football Friday around 12:30 or so, Lakeena will give you her top games for this week's action in the world of college football. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, wrapping up today's show in our last segment along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sidney Brown. Lakeena, Today is the media day for all 32 NBA teams across the country, including here in Chicago. Lakeena, Kyrie Irving didn't show up to media day. You can go into more in depth than I am. I know he's his own man. Why he if you want to tackle that subject, go ahead. If not, we can move on to the Bulls. I don't hate the guy, but okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that. I mean, it's just like, I'm like, look, let him do what he wants to. He's a grown man. I know people want to, make, want to be a police his life. I mean, look, whatever views he have, okay, he disagrees with you guys, okay, fine, whatever. He marches to the beat of his own drummer. For those of you who are wondering what we're talking about, he's actually not going to. He's going to be held off of Trinity Camp for right now due to health and safety protocols. He's not vaccinated, okay. And then that's going to be another thing. But I look, like I said, we've been saying this for the longest. I don't know what else to say about what can you say about Kyrie? I mean, it's sort of like, okay. I mean, I'm kind of at that point where we're like, I really don't care they're adults. They can do what they want. Leave them alone. And look, we all know that he's not, he's in his own mind. Let's say it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and you couldn't have said it any better. Now let's go over to the Chicago Bulls. Of course, we mentioned on Friday, Patrick Williams is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, so he's going to miss the start of the season. Kobe White, who has off-season shoulder surgery, he's supposed to return by early November at the earliest. Lakeena, as we said before, we'll get more in depth into the Bulls as the regular season as we draw closer to the start of the regular season. But this Bulls team on paper looks good. As we said before, if we have any comments or quotations that we see out there, we'll give them to before we check up out of here at 2:00. But as I said before, Lakeena, looking at this Bulls team, just snapshot before preseason, I still expect this team with their early season schedule throughout the first couple of weeks to get off to a good start. But looking at that roster, when they finally, hopefully they stay healthy throughout the year, when they get the two key guys back, as I mentioned, say that 5 times fast. But as soon as they get Patrick Williams and Kobe White back, I still expect this team to be not just competitive, but more than competitive. It would be a very good team. How far can they go? We'll see. All I say is, make the playoffs, stay out of number 7, and stay basically injury-free. If you can do those 3 things, it's a successful season. Now, once they get to the playoffs, should they make it, the sky's the limit from there. But this season is about being consistent, making the playoffs, not having any major injuries, and staying out of number 7. My ceiling as of right now, this team can win 47, 48 games. I really believe that.
Yeah, I think they can too. And I feel like maybe... Look, this team here is sort of like that, that team that you really, as long as everyone stays healthy. And look, while this injury with Patrick Williams is not ideal, but I guess it's better it happens now. And like we said on Friday, Kobe's he's gonna be on track to come back perhaps in sometime in November. So that's good news too if you're a Bulls fan. I mean, I think they can win 40. I heard like the over-under is like 41.5, which is like barely at 500, which I find that kind of like really. Really?
Yeah, call me crazy, but I find that to be odd too.
Yeah, it is sort of odd, but I think they can win more. I think they can win about 45 to 48 games. I think that's their ceiling.
Yeah,
I feel like they've got the talent to do it. They got the coaches that can do it. And look, as long as everyone stays healthy for the most part, I think they can do it. They can finish as long as they can stay out of the top. Like as long as they stay like outside of the 6, like say like in the top 6, they can perhaps maybe stay away from the play-in. They think that's a successful season for them.
Now it's going to be interesting. Excuse me. It's going to be interesting to see how the roles of Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan are going to affect this team, because as we mentioned, Kobe White is not going to be there to start the year along with Patrick Williams. How much load does Zach LaVine can he pick up? Now he has DeMar DeRozan at his hip. How much of the scoring load would those two share to trying to compensate the losses of those 2 young players? Yes, I know we haven't mentioned Nikolai Vucevic yet. He's going to do a fine job in the middle offensively. We know he's not a defensive person. But how much of the scoring load can DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine pick up until those 2 guys get back? And number 2, how much will it be put on hometown rookie Ayo Dosunmu's shoulders Will they bring him along solely, or will they try to put a little bit more responsibility on him to kind of compensate for the absence of Kobe White to start the year?
Well, and also too, I think that's a good thing. You have a lot of depth there. I think that's sort of like, hopefully, I'm sure Io's probably going to get, he'll probably have to pick up the slack for Kobe, for both Kobe White and Patrick Williams now. So I think the onus is going to be on him. And also, if you're, Zach LaVine, I think that's why it's a good thing you have Vucevic, and now you have DeRozan, now you have Lonzo Ball. I mean, you have someone there, you have guys that can kind of pick up the slack for you, that the onus doesn't have to be on him. So I think that's going to help him in his psyche. I know I saw some quotes from Arturas Karnisovas said he wants to keep Zach here. They want to, he wants to stay here. So, let's hopefully that maybe we can get a contract extension together. I know he's changed agencies and whatnot, but I think that's what you want to hear from one of your top, your front office guy, your top players on the same page, which is great. So I think the ceiling is there for the Bulls. I think. Look, I don't think they're better. Look, no one's saying that they're better than the Bucks or the defending champions or the Nets. No one's saying that. What I am saying is that I think they're better than the Knicks. I think they're better than the Heat. I think they're right in that 4 to 5 range. That 3, 4, and 5 range. Again, if everybody stays healthy.
Yeah, a couple of other things too. I want to see how Lonzo Ball will mesh with the veterans, with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. I jokingly said that this could be Lob City 3.0 at the United Center. We'll see what happens there. But I want to see what kind of office assistant that head coach Billy Donovan will run for this Bulls team. Now you have a reliable point guard in Lonzo Ball. He's a facilitator. You don't need him to score. He's a poor man's Jason Kidd. If you're open, he'll find you. And he's also improved his shot over the last couple of years. That's going to be a bonus. So he doesn't have to carry a team like he did with the Lakers before they brought in LeBron James, or New Orleans when Zion Williamson was missing all those games. So I want to see what office assistant will this Bulls team have. And that starts with the head coach, Billy Donovan.
Yeah, and I think now that he has the personnel now, I think we'll see how this offense looks under him. So it should be a fun one. Some other sort of camp sort of, media day news. Zion Williamson, had to have foot surgery, so he'll be back for the opener, but he's going to miss, preseason training camp. So there already been issues going on with the Pelicans. So now with this news with Zion, I think, could be a long year for the Pelicans, I think.
Yeah, they don't. I think this is a second coach or third coach.
Third, I think it's third. Well, second. I think second. Yeah,
second coach. And so if the Pelicans want to keep Zion in New Orleans, they got to have some stability in. But most importantly, they're gonna have some better players around here. If they don't do that within the next couple of years, trust me, Zion's going to be the first person out of there. So I know the guy GM David Griffith. I know he tried to build a nice comparable roster. I know you have All-Star Brandon Ingram there. From he was an all-star from a couple of years ago, so he's a nice piece. But can you build the rest of the team around him in that competitive Western Conference?
Yeah, that's going to be the $1 million question. There's Mr. Brown. Also, too, Devin Booker will miss the start of the Suns camp also because of protocols. Let's see. The NBA denies Andrew Wiggins' vaccine exception request. I guess he was trying to say that use religious as a reason, but he's not religious, so. So he's kind of in a rock and a hard place there. And also, to another interesting thing that kind of made the rounds this morning, David Letterman, yes, that David Letterman apparently asked Kevin Durant.
Hey, they bushy beard David Letterman. Hey, he looks like Passion of the Christ since he's been on TV.
yes. And apparently he asked, Kevin Durant why they call him KD. And of course, the video kind of does it justice. I don't know if this was a bit or I don't know if this is, I don't know if they were pulling the people's legs here, but of course, KD, Kevin Durant, KD. So it's just, like I said, I think it might have all been a bit. I don't think it was David Letterman was a big sports fan, so I doubt I doubt he didn't know why they call Kevin Durant KD, but you never know. You never know with him. I think it may have just been a bit, but who knows? We got the photos. I know they're starting to practice in Los Angeles for both the Clippers and the Lakers. So gonna be interesting to see how those two teams sort of kind of look as we get into the preseason, the season coming up.
The Clippers are going to have the new arena coming within the start of the 2024-25 season. So, and Steve Ballmer, he's a $3 billion there, $3 billion there, and so they're gonna $3 billion there. They're gonna lead. Of course, they share space with the Lakers in terms of basketball purposes for the Staples Center. They're gonna build that. He owns the Forum, which I didn't know. He said owns the property of the Forum, so they're gonna build that new arena over it. So it's a game changer for the city of Los Angeles.
If you saw the blueprints for the arena, they look phenomenal. So it's going to take a couple of years, for it to build. But I think if you're a Clippers fan, and I know there actually are some out there now, especially with the team's recent success, the fact that you're going to have your own arena, you don't have to share with the Lakers anymore, which you've been since you got to Los Angeles. You're going to have your own arena now in a few years. Praise the Lord! If you're Frankie Muniz and other famous Clippers fans, other Clippers fans, famous and not famous. You're feeling pretty good now. You're gonna have your own arena in a couple of years.
Yeah, they've been sharing that Staples Center with the Lakers for the last 22 years. So it's finally nice to see them get their own home. They haven't had their own home since the LA Sports Arena, which looked like Big Mama's basement, and the little light and it's dark.
Yeah. Oh gosh, like a basement. Yeah, that was a basement. It's crazy. Let's see what else.
Ben Simmons is not reporting to training camp, but we told you that it's not going to happen.
Yeah, well, that whole thing is just crazy to me. Like, okay, and I guess like the Sixers brass tried to go to California to try to visit Ben Simmons, but they told him don't bother. And that whole thing is just they're trying to trade him, but they still can't. They can't find any takers. It's just the whole thing is just a crazy soap opera.
Yeah, like I said before, eventually he's going to get traded, but he's got to play nice because sooner or later he's going to get fined and he's going to miss some money. And no player likes to have money taken out of their paycheck. So
I think at what it's like 200. I think it's like 256,000 that for each day or something like that. So
that adds up pretty quickly.
It adds up pretty quick. So I'm sure we'll be seeing him in camp soon. And also some NFL news. The Panthers acquire C.J. Henderson from the Jacksonville Jaguars. They definitely need some secondary help, especially with J.C. Horn going to be gone for a while, maybe for the year. So you got a pretty good, corner here, from a couple years ago for the Jags. So they need that desperately.
Yes, they do, as Carolina is trying to make the playoffs for the first time in a few years. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena with you. A couple of minutes left in our last segment for this Monday edition. Lakeena, the floor is yours. The Ryder Cup. Take it away. As I mute myself.
Oh, you mute yourself away, my friend. The Team USA just shellacked the Team Europe 19-9. I think that's one like the highest. The most one-sided victory for either side in years. Of course, a few years ago, the U.S. beat Europe. The Europe team beat the U.S. pretty handily. Since the centennial, since it was back in 1979, they extended to all of Europe. Back then it was 1975. It was still Great Britain and Ireland. Dustin Johnson had a nice showing too. He was 5-0 in all his foursomes and singles play. He won his singles play yesterday. Joined the likes of Arnold Palmer and also Francesco Molinari did a few years back for Europe and a couple other guys. So that was a nice showing for him. If you saw Rory McIlroy's comments, you can see the emotion, and they just unfortunately the Europe team just didn't really have it this year. And I'm thinking that they may change some things, because I think what helped the U.S. was that you had Steve Stricker as your captain. He grew up near Whistling Straits. He grew up not too far from there. He's won a tournament there, so he knows that course like the back of his hand. So that's sort of for them to win. And plus, I think right now the U.S. actually has a better better like group of players from start to finish. Although Havla had a nice showing for Europe, and Wiesberger had a good showing for Europe in their first Ryder Cup. So you're going to be seeing more of those guys. And look, we may see Phil Mickelson in the next Team USA captain in the Ryder Cup in a couple years in Rome. They're going to be going to Rome for the first time. This is going to be actually the third time they're going to be in a course outside of Great Britain and Ireland. So this is probably a beautiful like golf course in Rome. So It's a good showing for the U.S. And look, I'm sure Europe will try to find some things. You may hear, Henrik Stenson or Lee Westwood, made captain for the Europe team in a couple of years. So yes, Sid, I'm done. Now you can mute yourself.
Thank you very much. That's going to put a cap on today's show right here on Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports. Sid and Lakeena with you. We are with you every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Make a note of it. We follow Sean and Maya in the morning every Monday and every Friday. So you can catch us immediately following Sean and Maya in the morning every Monday and every Friday, noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
See, I told you so. I was going to keep the Ryder Cup short and sweet. So when I did, and
yes,
I did. You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
And you can download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. That's the Apple iTunes Store or Google Play, wherever you download your apps. Make sure it says Sports Zone Chicago. You can catch our shows live, or you can catch any of our previous shows. You can watch them or listen to them on that Sports Zone Chicago app. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And you want to listen to the audio version of this podcast, you can do so by subscribing to War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes, WARR on Anchor, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow the guys at War Media at WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at War Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And close it out.
All right, I know it's a little warm out there, but it's gonna be up and down there, so it's gonna, the weather's gonna be a little crazy as it usually is this time of year. So dress accordingly. If you're not gonna get the vaccine, wash your hands, and just be safe out there and be good to each other. For Sid, I'm Lakeena. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Go Sox! Holla!